Okay, on to our next slide. Oh, sorry. Mud. This is another subtopic that I kind of wanted to talk about because I believe that there are so many benefits for children playing in mud. The experience of cool mud squishing in between tiny toes is something that cannot be recreated indoors. As it can be recreated indoors, but not like the experience of being in a huge muddy puddle and feeling that cool sensation in between your toes as you get to really dive deep into the play that's about to be experienced. Some of the things that mud does offer as a benefit for children is that it increases level of serotonin in your brain. So when your brain produces that serotonin, it sparks the feelings of happiness inside you. So playing in mud actually makes you joyful. It can boost your immunity. I know some parents are anti being dirty because the germs, and they don't want that on their kids getting into their bodies, or the smaller children touching it and putting it in their mouths. But those germs are actually good for us to be exposed to because we do increase our immune system when those germs are put into our body. Sometimes being in a clean environment all the time is not the best for our health. It improves cognitive function by fostering creativity and incorporating different domains of learning so that children can be doing dramatic play and making mud pies, but then also math and science goes into that as they're measuring out the ingredients that go into their mud pie. They can practice their fine and gross motor skills by shoveling with a giant shovel the mud and making a stream, or taking the mud and trying to build a house for an animal or a car, and really building team building skills too, as children have to work together towards a common goal in their play. It's an inclusive activity. Children with all different types of abilities that come from all different kinds of backgrounds can play in the mud, and it builds an appreciation for the outdoors because we need dirt and rain to get mud, and that can be found outdoors, and I think that children are excited by it, as I've seen like on rainy days, let's go jump in muddy puddles and stuff like that from the children, and let them do that. Let them go and jump in the muddy puddles. Let them jump in the grass and in the rain, and really let them immerse themselves in that experience. Let them get head to toe dirty. You know, as long as they're enjoying every second of it, that's all that really matters. And that's my little tidbit on that. And I kind of wanted to apply more to teachers in these next couple of slides. I just wanted to let teachers know that everything indoor-wise, activity-wise, can be done outdoors. And I'm going to go through a couple of slides showing the different areas that teachers usually have set up in their classrooms that are integrated into our outdoor classroom where I work. So this is dramatic play. As you can see, there's micro and macro dramatic play. Micro dramatic play, take a dollhouse outside, some small action figures or Legos, and they can do micro dramatic play that way. Like I said, mud kitchen, so kind of like a house. They can create their own menu, which supports language and literacy, and then there's a outdoor tea party happening. Visual arts, painting leaves that the children have collected on a walk, or finding a bunch of rocks that they can paint, or just doing simple art projects like collaging. You know, I feel like being outdoors can really expand what teachers feel comfortable with doing art, because the cleanup is less work. You know, when you're outdoors, you don't have to worry about the paint getting on the floor or, you know, on the walls. And there's not so many restrictions as to what you can and cannot do activity-wise outside of visual arts, because the children are outdoors and they can get messy and they can get the space messy, and that's okay. Math and science. So in the picture on the left, the children are exploring ramps and the speed, and if I tilt this ramp a little bit higher, will the water travel down faster? Or if I place my ramp at a horizontal level like this and it's not inclined, will the water still flow into the bucket? And really building those, like I said, team building skills. And the same thing goes with the second picture. They were doing ramps with cars, you know, so speed, velocity, concepts like that are all incorporated in this. On the right, we're fortunate enough to have a stream in our nature center that we can go visit. So towards the end of the summer and at the beginning of the school year, it was very, very green because it was filled with algae and moss, and we had never seen it like that before. So we wanted the children to stick a leaf inside the stream and see what happened to the leaf after they took it out of the water. So this child right here stuck the leaf inside the stream, and the tip of the part of the leaf that had gone into the water was now green. And that just opened up a discussion about why he thought it was green and what made it green, and kind of diving deeper into those type of concepts that you really can only have outdoors in nature. Fine motor, we've been bringing Play-Doh a lot outdoors just because this is a new environment for these kids, and we do have little ones, so Play-Doh is very therapeutic. Manipulating the Play-Doh with their hands, using Play-Doh tools such as a garlic press to make spaghetti and meatballs. Gross motor is obviously met outdoors, as the kids can climb trees, rock climb, or running. Running outdoors on dirt in a path that has an inclining hill is actually a lot harder than just running on a blacktop asphalt or cement that most people have outside at their houses or in their classroom. So it provides just a different kind of skill set. And language and literacy. So these children on the left are actually collecting their leaves and taking their leaves, observing them, and then drawing them. I say that this is language and literacy because they're having enriching conversations about what leaf they had, what their leaf looked like, and also practicing those pre-literacy skills with holding a pencil and being able to draw what they see. This teacher in the middle is reading a book to the children sitting down outside. The children are also can be offered books in a cozy book nook area that you've made outdoors with the books. Obviously, if it's raining, you're going to have to find covering for the books, or maybe you put something else out that day. The children on the right are doing chalk. We introduced chalk. Children did chalk drawings on the cement. The teachers wrote some of their names because the children were really interested in the letters of their names, and so we wanted to honor their interest and really hone in on that. And that's amazing language and pre-literacy skills that are happening outdoors. Group time, as most of us call it. We are very intentional about what we call it. We call it our community gathering. So all of our community gatherings can be done outside. Just take your children, sit them down. Surprisingly, I think that there are less distractions outside than there are in the classroom, and the children are better able to focus on what you're talking about, what you're singing about, what concepts you're learning. So these are just a couple of the pictures that we have where we like to do our community gathering, if we decide to do it indoor or outdoor. Our next, lunch and snack. We do all of our lunches and our snacks outside due to space, one, and two, it's less of a cleanup stress on us teachers. The children either sit down on their tarp, sit down with one another, kind of like camping, and just sit there, eat their lunch, talk to one another. We have table picnic benches at the ANC that if the teachers are willing to, they can walk the children over with their lunches and the children can have a picnic outside. You can read a book to them while they're eating, or you can leave them to their own interest in conversations and kind of be a spectator and see, what are they talking about? Are they talking about the environment around them? Like, are they talking about a squirrel that might be approaching because they want their food? You know, there's different components that being outdoors during meal times can offer. And the last thing that I believe that children in outdoor schools or classrooms have that kids who aren't in nature as much as fostering an interest in preserving nature. I feel like when kids have tangible experiences with nature, they can understand the damage that we can cause to nature, and that they become more aware of the importance of taking care of our environment. Like I said earlier, in the garden, children are able to see where food comes from, and the important role that they can play in tending to the garden and ensuring that the plants and the food stay alive. And what that process is of making a bed for the plants, planting the seed, watering, making sure that no weeds get to it or animals get to it, or things aren't picking at your plant, and really nurturing it until it comes to fruition and it's time for the food to be picked. And also teaching kids when it is time for them to be allowed to pick certain things from the garden, and talking about death and different things like that. And they realize the natural consequences that come when they pick a plant attached to a living vine or branch. They realize that they just took that branch away from its family, and it wasn't ready for its time to die, but now it's dead. And that is our responsibility, and we should not take that lightly. They become more aware of how to make small changes to better the environment, and do a small part, such as practicing a zero waste policy, so using reusable containers, reusable straws, reusable cloth napkins, the importance of planting native plants in your area, and why that's important, in caring for animals, and how all those small things can make a huge impact on our earth when we practice it as a whole together. And to kind of talk more about the importance of native plants, kind of an off-topic story, this picture here is actually two of my students. We went to the ENC, and this tree was diseased. So I didn't let them climb on that particular branch because it was oozing out just gross things, and they were like, "Why is it oozing, Miss Jordan?" And I simply talked to them, well, when plants that are non-native come into an area where there are native plants, they carry pathogens with them. And the way I explained pathogens to them, because they are three, was I explained it as they're like bugs that kind of eat away at the tree, but they're invisible. So invisible bugs that are eating away at the tree and causing it to become stressed out, tired, sick, because they're not used to that kind of bug being in them. And so that's why it's important to not bring in plants that aren't native to our area to the nature center, so that we can preserve the trees that we do have from pathogens. And it was a really interesting conversation to have, and it was really kind of cool for me to have that experience with them, to be able to talk to them about the importance of native plants. I want to quickly talk about how to connect with nature in high population places. Nature is paying a price in order for housing to be built to fit our ever-growing population, and children are not finding outdoor nature areas to play in. Luckily, people who live in suburban areas and don't have a lot of access to nature can still engage children in activities that are nature-oriented, such as playing nature safari in the car, so looking at things outside the car, stopping and looking at the clouds, or, if you're driving and you see something that's really intriguing, taking the time to pull over, stop, and look and talk about it. Going on a full moon walk with your family, creating presents out of natural materials, planting a garden, whether it's in your backyard or if you live in an apartment or condo or townhouse, making a garden box and kind of really watching that come to fruition, and going walks at your local park and stopping and listening to what's going on around you. I also don't want to ignore technology, because technology is so prevalent in our world, so it would be naive to say, oh, don't use technology and just only go out in nature. That's a huge no-no on my part, because it's everywhere. So a hybrid mind is using computers to maximize our abilities to process intellectual data in natural environments, to ignite our senses and accelerate our ability to learn. Short, it's beneficial for children to have abilities that come from technology, but also abilities that they can get from being out in nature as they kind of grow into this role where technology is taking them into their adulthood with jobs and such. So just make sure that you're really balancing that, and that there's not too much technology or a disconnect from nature. And I have also listed some resources for you guys to find.